It wasn't until 1938 that Superman first saw the light of day. And for the mere sum of 10 cents and a little help from your imagination, you could transpose yourself into the world of the mighty visitor from another planet who could leap 1/8 of a mile, hurdle a 20-story building, raise tremendous weights, run faster than an express train. Wait a minute. It doesn't say one word here about his flying.
Here, let me see that.
Say, aren't you,
No, but he is.
I used to be, but I'm not anymore.
Oh, and I have a sneaking suspicion that Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen of the Daily Planet are putting me on.
That's a trick we used to play on Clark Kent.
Then I feel honored. Ladies and gentlemen, Noel, Neill, and Jack Larson. I don't really think they need any introduction.
It's been a long time since I've held one of these comic books in my hand. Do you know that if you had a copy of one of these today, it'd be worth $4,000?
That is, if you could find one. And these are number 2 and 3.
Well, I must remind you that these are collector's items and that they're on loan to us and not available at your local newsstand.
I brought in a first issue, one of my own, a first issue of Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen comic books. This came out right after the television show went on the air.
And after the character that you were playing started to become very popular.
Right afterwards, they brought out that, and it became really their most popular comic book for many, many years.
Did the same people draw all 3 cartoons?
Well, they had a kind of assembly line. I actually saw that. I used to go back to New York because I'd worked there as an actor, when I still acted, in live television, and I'd always call on the National Comics people. And they had an assembly line of cartoonists at that time. Actually, the man that had created Superman, Joe Shuster, of Siegel and Shuster, the two together, he was working on the line at that time. I was once showing him he'd needed a job, and he'd lost rights to Superman early on, and by various means he'd managed to get just a regular job from them, and he was just sitting there drawing, and they'd pass one on to the other.
We all know the tremendous reincarnation we're having with Superman today. What has this done to your lives? It's been quite a few years since you were involved in the making of the television show Superman. And now the popularity of the characters itself has come back into everybody's faces. Has it changed you, or has it brought back memories? What has it meant to you both?
Who's first?
Either or.
Either or, okay.
Well, I've been very fortunately asked to do college shows, lecture type thing. So I've had many fun times with the students for the last 4 or 5 years.
And you talk about the making of the original
Superman show, and I have scripts and get the kids up to play the parts. And questions and answers, they always want to know where Jimmy is and what he's doing.
And what is Jimmy, and what has he been doing?
Well, Jimmy quit acting in 1960, and I quit, and I'd gotten very typed, of course. I'd regarded myself as a very serious actor. Had been on the contract to Warner Brothers, had done a number of movies and live television things, but the Superman show eclipsed everything. I thought only for a while. I now know permanently, no matter, I'm a writer, if I would get the Nobel Prize at the end of my life, whatever my obituary would say, best remembered as Jimmy Olsen. And so
I used to feel that way about my teeth before I got my first cavity.
And so I've come to accept that. For years I fought it. I'd had a double life when I was on Superman. I used to go off and work as a writer in New York. I was one of the original off-Broadway playwrights.
I think one thing that's kind of important and shows the tremendous difference in the 20 years since Superman started out on television as opposed to what some of the series are today. There were tremendous restrictions placed on you as actor and actress as far as allowing you weren't able to do other shows. You were under a very difficult kind of contract that no longer exists today.
Yes.
And I think the actor today has an opportunity when the show is not actually shooting to go out and do other things.
Yes.
You had such a restriction on you that you became so definitely identified with the characters on the Superman show. That made getting other employment a little difficult, didn't it?
Eventually, it made it pretty impossible. I was totally typed. By the time the show, for years I fought it, but then I was typed, and I really tried. Noel, I know, stayed in Los Angeles, but I tried everything.
Did you find it difficult too, Lois?
Well, yes, I believe we were all pretty well typed, but I, as I say, luckily got into the college thing, which sort of smoothed the path a little bit. I took advantage of being Lois Lane, frankly. Thought I might as well go with it.
And, of course, the same effect happened to George Reeves as far as his acting career.
Yes,
a lot of people don't realize that he was a very fine and respected actor here in the community in Hollywood before he got the Superman series.
George was a marvelous actor. He'd studied at the Royal Academy. He'd co-starred in films with Claudette Colbert, Paulette Goddard, Merrill Oberon, and he was just a guy. He was away in the service, Second World War, all during the war. He didn't really reestablish himself when he came out, and when he did do a film, which he had done just before Superman went on the air, From Here to Eternity, he was so typed and recognizable, they had to cut him out of the film, and that was that.
We'll be back with more about Superman in just a minute.